Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It is Sandman, better known as Jim. And today's video, we're going to talk about the shadow. You can see next to me, I have a bunch of media regarding the shadow, from toys to novels to graphic novels and magazines. Graphic novel here, big one by Mike Kaluta, and some of the original radio shows on vinyl. That's right, got quite a few of those. Uh, the Shadow has had a long history. He has been often imitated. In fact, Batman is a direct imitation of the Shadow, especially in Batman's early incarnation. Bob Kane even said he was basically a ripoff of the Shadow. Um, well, him and Zorro together. And, he's been in every media you can think of. He had three movies that came out in the late 30s, early 40s. He had a serial. He had a big budget movie in the 90s with Alec Baldwin playing him, and that's where the toy comes from. And his novels started in 1930. It's either 37 or 39. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up again. Um, and went all the way till the mid 50s. That's how popular he was. Pulp was already dead by then. The Silver Age of comics had started with Showcase number 4. Superhero comics were on the rise, but the Shadow was still a popular seller until the mid to late 50s. Okay. And there are people carrying on that tradition today with pulp novels, but we'll get into that in the video in a bit. Let me get some coffee. All right. The first thing with the Shadow, he was just a voice that introduced a certain radio show in the 30s. And keep in mind, back then, they didn't have TV or internet or anything like that, so radio was it. And this is what it sounded like.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows. Today's
And there you go. That was just it, how it started, you know? And from that one voice and that laughter, it got so popular. He got his own radio show. They just Street and Smith, who published all most of the pulps that were popular during that time, decided to go ahead and write pulp novels about him. And the main writer was Walter Gibson. Okay. This book, Master of Mystery: The Rise of the Shadow, goes over everything about him. It's a great book to read, gives you his origins and everything like that. Just awesome, awesome read. I would suggest it if you like the Shadow, even a small bit. Okay. And during the Golden Age, the Shadow was still so popular as many of the Street and Smith characters were, mainly the Shadow and Doc Savage. Street and Smith decided to get in on the comic book thing. Okay. And Street and Smith started publishing comic books. This is the Alter Ego magazine. The cover shows one of the Shadow comics here. And the magazine gives full descriptions on all the pulp style comic books from Street and Smith, as you can see. And if you guys don't know Alter Ego, it's done by the legendary Roy Thomas. He created it, and he loves the golden age. He knows more about old obscure heroes than anyone on the planet, I'm sure, and he truly loves and reveres and respects them. So if you want to learn about stuff, definitely try to get some Alter Ego issues. It's well worth it. All right. Um, Now, in the late 60s and 70s, Bantam and a bunch of other publishers started putting out, reprinting in paperback format, the Shadow novels that were originally pulps in the 30s and 40s. And I do happen to have a few of those here. Like The Living Shadow. Yeah, it is bagged. Bought it that way. Great cover art. See, the problem is though you never see his face. That cover is wrong because you see a smile. He was always had the red scarf up to his nose like that. Some of the covers on these paperbacks are done by Steranko, like this one, for example, which also bagged and board. Mark of the Shadow. That's a Steranko painting. Boom. I'm not sure if this one is or not. It looks like his style, but I can't say for sure. I'd have to do some more deep diving. Same with the Red Menace and the Master of Darkness Mox. Now, I mentioned the name Walter Gibson, but it says here Maxwell Grant on all the pulp novels because people were assigned to stuff. Like Lester Dent did Doc Savage, Maxwell Grant, you know, for the Shadow. Those are just ghost names so that whoever wrote the stories behind, could write whatever they wanted, didn't have to use their real name, and they still got paid. Walter Gibson was the main writer on this, but Lester Dent, who wrote the majority of the Doc Savage novels, did write a couple of Shadow to fill in, for Walter when he went on vacation or whatever. But usually when Walter got back, he would rewrite and rework Lester Dent's stories because Doc Savage doesn't fit the Shadow and vice versa. All right. And then these are newer printings from the 70s. This is The Gray Fist. This was novel number 15. And this is novel 21, The Wealth Seeker. These are definitely not Steranko. Um, but it all started with the radio shows. And I was so shocked and happy to find these. The boxes and are beat up, but these are LPs of the actual, you know, episodes, the radio episodes. And this one is a single record. It has two in it, Death from the Deep and The Devil Takes a Wife. Each episode's about a half hour long, maybe 45 minutes, so it's like one record, one story each side. Okay. That's his origin, and just from those, he got super popular. Here is a box set, the Murray Hill Radio Theater. It's a 3 record set of The Shadow. Orson Welles, before he went to Hollywood to get famous with, Citizen Kane and his other movies, he was the voice of the Shadow on the actual Shadow radio show. And this has 9 stories in it on a 3 record set. The Temple Bells, The League of Terror, Poison Death, Three Ghosts, Sabotage, Society of the Living Dead, The Phantom Boys, Bride of Death, and Silent Avenger. And these are just incredibly good shape. I got these things dirt cheap because people didn't want them. Like the one single record I got for $4. This I think was not more than 15 back when we had antique stores here where we live. And then here's a 3 disc set too. More Orson Welles stories. The White God, Murder of Approval, Board the Steamship Amazon, The Creeper, The Power of the Mind, and The Hypnotized Audience. And yeah, again, records in great shape. Yes, I actually own a record player to play these. Okay, so, and I do listen to them occasionally. Now, I do have all the MP3s of all the Shadow stuff that was done, but you want that physical media. You want to be able to listen to it, at least I do. And, you hear the crackle of the record, and it's just a totally different experience. Um, to this day, they are still doing Shadow novels. Like, here's reprints. Uh, like this one, I forget who publishes this. Hold on a second. This is published by Sanctum Books. This is a big thickie, and it has 4 of the Shadow novels in it. Look at that cover. What does that remind you of? Vaguely familiar of that Neil Adams Batman cover where Batman's hanging over the castle. Here we see Shadow hanging over the city and criminals running in fear. Okay. Very similar stuff. Okay. So, yes, a lot of stuff has been taken from shadow covers. And then gives you the shadow covers. Um, the shadow has been in comics since the Golden Age. Uh, he started off in, like I said, with Street and Smith comics in the 40s. Had many volumes, many issues, and he also in the 70s, beautiful Mike Kaluta art. I'll never forget that. DC did that with the Shadow, and he was kind of in Batman for a couple of those Batman issues, which I have in storage. Um, and he did some Dark Horse stuff in the 90s. I'll never forget the Dark Horse, Doc Savage and Mike Smith or Shadow team up done by Dave Stevens. Uh, Phenomenal stuff. Okay. But the biggest purveyor, by the way, here's a couple more Shadow novel reprints, okay, from Sanctum. Um, and they reprint the original covers, which is really cool too. Uh, but the biggest one, and I have most of these in floppy, but I'm just going to show the graphic novels because that's what I have here in the house. Like I said, the rest are in the storage container. Um, are from Dynamite. Okay. We'll start off with this hardback, The Shadow 1941, Hitler's Astrologer. This was originally written by Dennis O'Neil, drawn by Mike Kaluta, colors by ink and colors, I think, by Heath. And this was originally a story in DC. Marvel started publishing it as a big trade paperback, and this singular story has been reprinted ever since. And this is the Dynamite version. Um, and it's just awesome. I mean, Kaluta's work is legendary. Just great stuff. He has some great layouts. His storylines and the plot are incredible. It's just phenomenal stuff, and I love seeing the Shadow go up against like the Nazis, or as they used to call them, the Ratsies, and communism, all that stuff. Get rid of all the bad people. He did have powers, powers of the mind, make himself invisible, read men's thoughts, make them see what he wanted them to see. He could hypnotize people. Um, he had a lot of abilities. He could cloud men's minds, as they say. Okay. And it seems like he never ages. Howard Chaykin in the 80s even did a comic book through DC that put the Shadow in the modern era, which was actually really good. I was going and I was like kind of about it when I heard that because he's definitely a 30s 40s kind of pulp hero, but he made it work well, you know. Um, and then Will Murray, under the name of Kenneth Robeson, which is the name that all the Doc Savage books are done under, the all new Wild Adventures of Doc Savage, the Sinister Shadow. Yes, finally, the Shadow and Doc Savage actually meet together in pulp novels. Okay, this is newer. Uh, it's a big, thick pulp novel. This is published, I believe, 2014. Let me double check here for you guys. No, 2015. Excuse me, June 2015. You know, really fun stuff. And this was so popular that they actually made a sequel of it called The Empire of Doom, where the Shadow and Doc team up again to take down the Shadow's master villain. What's his name? Shere Khan, or whatever his name is. Okay. Really good stuff. But getting back to the Shadow at Dynamite, they did so many series and so many good things with him. That is not an actual sticker on the book. That's part of the cover. They made it look like a pulp novel. Okay. This was one of the first things they did. It's a 4 or 5 issue miniseries. Excuse the schmutz on it, by Garth Ennis, called "The Fire of Creation," with beautiful, beautiful Alex Ross cover there, and it's all about the Shadow having to stop the Nazis from getting, the atomic bomb back when they were ahead of us actually with their scientists in the 30s and early 40s. Uh, so he had a part in that. Really neat storyline. And then Dynamite went all in with the pulp heroes and did a team up called Masks, which was like either a 6 or 8 issue miniseries. And you've got the Shadow, you've got the Spider, you've got the Black Bat, you've got the Green Hornet and Kato, you've got Zorro. I mean, you've got all these pulp icons in here. And Alex Ross did all the covers for it. It was popular enough that they did another mini series called Masks 2, and they included a few other heroes in here. You'll see you got the Green Llama, you've got Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, you've got Miss Fury here. I mean, just a whole bunch that it just was really good. Oh, and Miss Satan in the background. These are all heroes from the 40s. So you can go to the Golden Age database or Public Domain Hero database and find all these people. Um, Wonderful read, written by Colin Bunn, main art by Iman Casalos, but there's also Jay Lee, Alex Ross, all those guys on this stuff. Um, then we get the Shadow and Green Hornet teaming up for a series called Dark Knights. Really good. Again, more Alex Ross covers here on this one, and it's a good read. Okay. And then you've got the originals, the three Pulp Hero originals teaming up in Justice Inc. You've got the Avenger, you've got Doc Savage, and The Shadow team up for 6 issues of just pulp goodness, which involves time travel, super science technology, all kinds of crazy fun stuff. Great, great read. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. There's so much out there when it comes to The Shadow and the Pulp Heroes. His legend lives on even to this day. Um, all the pulp heroes do, honestly, like the Green Hornet and so forth. And pulp heroes are what inspired the costume Golden Age superheroes, which then inspired the Silver Age, and so on and so on. So it's worth a read to check out and know your history. Talking about the movie, the Shadow movie that was done in the 90s with Alec Baldwin, not many people liked it. I thought it was okay. They got all the scenery and cars and all that stuff. They did it accurate, which was cool. And I mean, this was my favorite toy out of it, where he's invisible gun kind of guy, and that's probably the only toy I got too from that, that movie. But that's it. I mean, if you want to know more about the Shadow, Google it. The shadow's everywhere, man. You can find out stuff, you can see pictures. If you read digitally online, you can read the books online, you can read comics online if you're subscribed for that stuff. You can go buy stuff on Evil Bay. I mean, the shadow is everywhere. He really is. And I would encourage everyone to go out and take a chance and read it. I think you'll enjoy it. With that, I'm done, people. I wish you the very best day. Enjoy your Saturday. God bless, and we'll see you later. Bye.